if you take on AI without sort of thinking about the ethics around it, it's sort of similar to scaling without a strategy. It may feel like it's happening fast, but it won't take you very far. When you bring AI in, you automatically create trust. You automatically create workers who are going to be even more loyal to what you're doing because you're actually taking into consideration what they need, and that fear goes away and you're empowering those people. You can't actually innovate if you're always reacting. How are you meant to scale your business and how are you meant to innovate if you're just continually reacting to all the noise around you?
What one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, watching and listening today?
People believe that failure is your time to quit. It's actually just a data point. It's something for you to learn and grow.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Athin Cassiotis. And today I have an awesome guest. Her name is Rachel Kerrigan. She's a veteran, keynote speaker, AI thought leader, and podcast host. She helps people reclaim their capacity so that they can empower others to ethically and sustainably innovate in ways that last. And she works with founders, executives, and leaderships to drive momentum without burning out their best people or themselves. Welcome, Rachel, and thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you for that introduction. Really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on your show.
You're very welcome. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing show for everyone watching and listening today. And you are a successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, introduce yourself by telling us more about you and your journey.
Okay, well, I've had a bit of an interesting journey. It's not your typical, I suppose, path to entrepreneurship. So I actually started out in the Royal Australian Air Force as an engineer. And because of that, I did some active service in Afghanistan. I left the military and actually became quite a successful project manager, contract administrator, and executive within heavy industry, but had a full emotional and physical breakdown. And I was diagnosed with chronic PTSD and severe depressive disorder, which really changed my life. And as a result of that, I even ended up homeless. I had the left-hand side of my body fully shut down. There was a whole heap of things that happened, and I was out of work for a good 5 or 6 years because of that. I used sport to get myself back into life, and actually became quite successful. I was a national level power lifter, was represented Sydney Uni Flames in National Women's Basketball League for 12 months, became a successful coach and in para powerlifting, and had a really great time with sport, but there was something missing. I sort of wanted to get back into work. And about 6 years ago, I applied for like over 300 jobs. No one wanted me because I'd been out of work for so long and I'd sort of been labeled with that PTSD and mental health issues. I was even told at one point I wasn't even qualified to clean toilets anymore. It was so crazy. I just had so many doors closed. And 4.5 years after that, I was actually sitting across the table with these same people that had closed doors in my face, shaping policy in the finance, tech, and business industries within Australia. And that's sort of what started my entrepreneurial journey, actually, because I wanted to be able to show people that it is possible to rebuild, and those skills that I'd had and learned from that lived experience could be brought across into business to actually help people exactly what we said, do the regain their capacity so that they can empower themselves and others. And with emerging tech and everything that's coming out at the moment and life moving so fast and all the noise, how you can actually innovate sustainably and ethically into the future.
Yeah, awesome. I love that story. And I love the unconventional path. Yours is definitely an unconventional path. And you had to overcome a lot of challenges. And so well done for going through that, not listening, similar thing with the naysayers and people saying you can't do something, right? And everything like that there. And I can definitely relate to like the athlete background, with sport as well there. And there's a lot of similarities, with business, right? And sport on how you build yourself. So just first, maybe on that part, what did you think, when you were doing that? You obviously got to national level with powerlifting and all of that, which is an amazing feat. What do you think from like a mindset perspective? got you to that point, right? Which we could sort of translate into business as well.
Yeah, I think it is the focus. You really have to learn how to block out all that noise and learn how to focus so that, there's only so many hours in a day. And when you're training at such a high level, it takes up a large proportion of your day. Everything's scheduled. So that focus and that ability to go, what do I actually need to do to achieve my goals? Is there something that I can drop today or drop out of my life that I don't need to do? Is there something that I can delay today? Is there a way that I can actually give this to somebody else to do so that my whole focus is on achieving the goals and doing what I need to do to actually be successful? And I think that is what's then translated so well over into business and being able to create a business, and leadership is that focus and actually working out what's important and what's all the busy work that can take up your time that you don't need to really be focused on.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Let's talk a little bit more around the leadership side now, because I know that's a big thing about what you do, and you talk a lot about like the mental load, right, of what it is for people that are the high performers and everything like that to have more sustainable leadership. So I'd love to hear more about this.
Yeah, well, as I said, there's so much noise these days, and it's getting more and more like social media, TV, just, you're bombarded with things all the time. And I think something that's very true is that you can't lead if you're drowning. And with all that noise, sometimes you can feel like you're drowning. It's almost like burnout is a badge of honor for leaders and business owners these days. And when I broke it down based on my life, the experiences that I've had, you can't actually innovate if you're always reacting. How are you meant to scale your business and how are you meant to innovate if you're just continually reacting to all the noise around you? So you really need to get that clarity, because that really doesn't exist in chaos. So, the first thing I think with the leadership is to actually bring that focus in, because you need room to think. You need room to spend time in that zone that is your leadership, that's your authentic self, and not in those low sort of impact activities that, sometimes are disguised as work. Um, and then when you have that space to actually think and you've cleared up that time, and it's amazing how much time you clear when you get focus and get clarity on what's actually important, then you can reinvest that time into things that matter to you and the space and the people. Because, as I said previously, that if you're not intent on what you're doing, you're just wasting time. And if you don't empower the people that are working with you, they don't execute, they don't elevate, they don't do anything that you need. And in a world where burnout and disengagement are just so prevalent, and sometimes, as I said, the badge of honor where you actually climb the ladder, I think this layer is really critical, because we hear a lot at the moment about cultural, psychological safety, the culture of work. That's something that comes from leadership down. If you're not creating the right culture at work and empowering people, you're actually going to have people leave. They leave because of the confusion, the inconsistencies, and leaders who don't make space for them. And um, once you actually have that clarity and you empower people, that's when you're actually in a position to build, because people don't leave if you've empowered them and given them that space. So, I just went off on a bit of a tangent then. I'm sorry. And once you've given them that space and that authority to actually lead, you're actually then in a place to actually innovate and grow and scale, because there's no more noise. People are empowered. They want to work with you and they can actually help you innovate, because not everything new is actually innovation. I think a lot of people think that to innovate, they have to think of something new. There's so many different ways to innovate. So, you can work with your people to see, is it something that's going to last? Is it something that aligns with our culture? Does it actually move the needle? Because if you're not innovating with teams that are empowered and that have clarity, then you're going to burn your team out. You're going to break your culture. You're going to sacrifice your alignment with where you're going for speed. And that isn't innovation. It's actually just churn. So it's about putting all your effort into something that's focused and strategic, and that's actually yours.
Yeah, Amazing. I love that. So true. There's so much out there, and I know how it is. I had to put like an app on my phone to stop me going to social media at one point, right? Like, and all of that, because it's easy to just go into those areas, right? Where you get distracted and all of that. So I think it's so great about what you're doing about redoing that focus, right? About what's really important and putting that down, doubling down, and then giving yourself the space, like you said, to be able to then go, what else do we need to do here? And I think burnout's a really big one. And I guess for me, I'd like to know your perspective. I don't have caffeine anymore, right? I haven't had it for many years. So I can really tell my body when I might push myself from time to time, but then I know when I'm pushing myself too much. So I can, I guess, regulate, give myself a break, all those types of things. So I don't go over the edge. Um, what do you think is some tips for people to like signs, everything like that, to not get to the point where you get to that, and it really affects you going forward so you can really be that true leader that you want to be?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There's so many great signs. One of the big ones I think is, waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden with, oh my God, did I send that email? Do I have to take my, son to soccer tomorrow? Have I got that organized? Oh, sugar, my family's birthday's here. And you're sort of waking up at that 2 a.m. sort of time and you've got all those tasks and everything in your head. Um, Other signs for me when I was on my burnout path was I just had a to-do list that never seemed to empty. There was always something else on it. There was always something else you could add to it. And you begin to feel that you're not focusing on yourself. Like everybody else in your world is important. Everything's critical. Everyone else and all their problems are critical, but you don't actually have time for yourself. And you just start functioning. You don't actually start living, and you're not paying attention to those things that are important, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your business. And that's where that mental load can actually take away your focus. Your work will drop. Things, you're not going to be giving the same level of attention. And, I'm one of those people that, the work that I do is really part of me. And so if I'm not giving 100% and what I'm putting across isn't quality, then that actually affects my mental health. And, that voice inside your head just starts talking more and more and more, which then adds to that mental load. So, it's those sort of signs. If you can't find time in the day for yourself, that is a really big sign that you're heading towards burnout.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that, sharing that. I love it. It's all these signs, right? Everyone, work it out. Just have the awareness of what's going on and change something, because otherwise, yeah, it's going to be harder to bounce back, when you're going down that slippery slope. And Rachel's a testament to that when she went really hard, at that point, previously when she in her life. So, no, I think that's a lot of powerful stuff there, right? About how we're being a leader. I do want to shift to the probably the more interesting subject to a lot of people right now, the topical subject, let's call it, around AI, right? Which is changing the game. It's moving so fast, and a lot of people are sort of now starting to play a little bit more. Some people don't know what's going on. Some people are really into it, and I think I know you talk a lot about the ethical and responsible adoption of AI that maybe a lot of other people aren't really thinking about in that respective. So love to know more about this.
Yeah, I love it. Now, this sometimes when people hear that, they think that people are anti-tech. I'm definitely not anti-tech. I love AI. I would not survive without AI and tech. I'm very geeky and very nerdy. So, what ethical AI and governance is around building systems that are actually worthy of your people and your purpose within your business. It's about making sure that you're adopting AI in a way that actually will help amplify the good things within your business. Because if you take on AI without sort of thinking about the ethics around it, it's sort of similar to scaling without a strategy. It may feel like it's happening fast, but it won't take you very far. And a lot of the leaders, executives, and people that I work with, I hear so much of the time is that tech's not working, Rachel. The tech's not working. And I'm like, no, the tech is actually working. It's that you may not have got the right tech for what you need. So we actually have people running so fast towards tech because there's so much noise out there about AI and about the fact that, if we don't jump on the AI wagon, we're going to miss out and your business isn't going to be as successful as other businesses that are adopting it. which is true. AI is going to add something like $150 billion to the Australian economy by 2030, which is just crazy. But you also need to do it in a meaningful way because you don't want to be scaling things that aren't working within your business. So we really need to, when you want to bring some new tech in, we really need to sort of start slow, stop, educate yourself. You don't need to be a geek and you don't need to know all the stuff about AI and how it works, but educate yourself on what systems you need and what's working within your business. And then align the tools that you're bringing in with your values and the values within your company. And that's going to help with that change process and bringing people up on board because if it's aligned with where you're going, people are going to follow it. And that's why you really need that human element in tech. Because I heard a line actually that was really, really fascinating is that AI isn't a tool. It's not a productivity hack. It's actually a philosophy because it's like a mirror and it's a bit of an amplifier. As we know, AI is just heaps of data put in, and excuse the French, but if you put shit in, you're going to get shit out. And as AI and generative AI starts to learn with what you're putting in, if you're not putting good stuff in, you're going to get really, really bad stuff out, and it's going to just keep amplifying that. Because AI is not neutral. It's actually trained on what we feed it. And there's actually a lot of inbuilt biases within AI already because it has learned from mainly Western dominant information. It's English language focused. It's coded and trained by mainly men. And it is only as good as what you put into it. And this isn't about actually blaming tech. It's just about actually understanding how you use it and how you're reinforcing something so that the culture that you're training into AI and into your business actually reflects the future that you want to build. And you're not just installing something and spending a lot of money. The amount of money I see people spend on AI and implement it, and it's actually not doing what they want it to do. It's just a lot of money wasted. So, and that there's, I suppose, also at the moment, there's a lot of confusion around AI because the legal landscape is very fragmented. There's not a lot of rules or not a lot of regulations, and there's no sort of standalone AI laws for something that is pretty scary. There's interpretations and a whole heap of different frameworks and proposed guardrails out there, but they mostly sort of target those high risk AI uses like facial recognition, credit scoring, medical diagnostics, and you got so many tech giants that are actually shaping the direction of AI. But I don't think leaders actually understand they're the ones who are carrying the weight of it. So if something goes wrong within their business, it's the leaders and the business leaders that are going to actually feel the brunt of what happens. So what I recommend is that at a board level, you get some form of AI literacy. At that sort of high leadership level, you actually understand AI, you actually understand your business enough to know that is this tool going to help or not? Have a responsible AI strategy built as part of bringing the system in, change management. Don't sort of bring the system in and then go, we should put some guardrails around this. Actually create the system you want that aligns with your values so that the tools are brought in to actually meet what those principles are, and make sure that that is a diverse team. It's the people that are going to be using the AI that have a voice about what's important to them that helps shape the structure and the values moving forward. Because not having a governance structure and an ethical governance structure when you integrate AI, it's not just a tech issue, it's a business one. It's actually something that can create a lot of money and a lot of risk for business if not brought in properly.
Yeah, awesome. So much awesome stuff there that you just shared and things to think about, right? It's like don't just let people loose on something. Put some processes and guardrails in place. And make sure people are using it right, especially from the privacy side. Don't just use the free chat GPT and put all your company data that's sensitive in there, right? And stuff like that. Because that could go out there, yeah.
100%. And if you don't have some principles in and around that, there are so many people so many leaders that I talk to say we don't have AI in our organization. I'm like, really? Are you sure? Are you sure people aren't using AI sort of on the side? And to me, that is a huge business risk, because a lot of leaders are treating AI like a black box, information in, information out, and can't really explain if something goes wrong, why that tool was there, how that tool was used. And, and that way you can't look at the risks that are around that either and help plan for that within your business, within your culture, within your structures, etc. And it just escalates risk and uncertainty. And then, you've got customers that all of a sudden don't trust you because they don't know how their data is being used or why it was done a certain way. And, you really need to keep that human in the loop. If it's something that you need to sort of be involved and understand, you really need to keep that human in the loop. And that's where putting those proper guardrails around and those proper checks on systems and data that's coming out. Because let's face it, AI doesn't always get it right. It's getting better, but it still doesn't always get it right. Is so very, very important when bringing it into your business.
Yeah, completely agree. And it was funny before you were saying about like the mindset stuff a little bit, like, oh, the tech's not working, right? And stuff like that. And yes, it could be the project or the way it was built is not the right tool and everything that you mentioned. I think there's also the mindset side, right? Where people have, I'm not good at tech or it's not working or things like that, when it's actually a user thing, in there where their beliefs are getting in the way sometimes, of actually having a powerful system, tech, AI, or whatever, that's actually going to, move the needle and they're fearful or whatever like that, or they've had bad experiences in the past. That doesn't mean, it's going to change as well in the future.
Exactly. And there's so much out there at the moment about the jobs that are actually going to be lost with AI. And that creates so much tension and so much, heartache when you're trying to bring these systems into your organization. If you don't do it the right way, if you don't bring people along the journey with you and this tech just sort of arrives and all of a sudden people have to learn how to use it, there is this going to be, like you said, that fear. There's going to be people, we've got something like 5 generations within the workforce at the moment, which is crazy. So you've got all these different generational things you have to take into account as well about how people learn, how tech savvy they are, how adaptable they are based on sort of where you've been, when you've been born and what you've sort of had to learn and adapt with over your life. And so bringing something in without taking all of that into consideration just creates a wall straight away. And it's so important to bring these people, bring your workers, empower them, bring them along the journey with you, let them have a say in what's going. Because if they know what's coming, why it's coming, and how it aligns, it's going to be so much easier to bring it in. And if people are going to lose their job or have their role sort of shrunk with automation as it is, then, a really good thing that I talk to businesses about doing is actually looking at, okay, what transferable skills do these people have and what new roles is AI going to be creating for you? Because, as roles go, AI is going to create new roles. Is there a way that you can actually upskill those people within the organization to then take on some of these new roles? Because it's going to save you so much money. So much money is wasted on making people redundant and then hiring for these roles when you might just have to spend a little bit of money if you actually look at the people you've got and the transferable skills that they've got and upskill them to actually take those new roles that are coming. And, when you do that and you bring people along the journey and explain that's what you're going to be looking at doing when you bring AI in, you automatically create trust. You automatically create workers who are going to be even more loyal to what you're doing because you're actually taking into consideration what they need. And that fear goes away and you're empowering those people to actually take control of their career as well.
Yeah, I love that. So many great points there on what it is. And yeah, and the way that I like to think about it as well is like, let's say, however many people you got in your team, you got a certain amount of capacity. All of a sudden, with AI, the capacity, for example, could be doubled, right? Because you got all the automations and stuff. So it's not about as well, like you said, transitioning roles, but it's like, well, maybe we have double the capacity now that we don't have to hire double the amount of people. We can just scale the business now, right? In there because we've got everybody and we can just do more with what we've got. So I think that's a better mentality to do rather than going, oh, I can cut costs for people. It's like actually we can double the business, right? I think that's a better way of looking at it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And it clears up space for people to actually think more and it helps them develop their creative thinking. And when you clear up space for people to actually think about what they're doing, that's where innovation happens.
Yeah.
And that's what allows your business to scale and grow even faster because you're not just relying on your own thoughts and your own, ability to innovate and scale your business. You have these people who are working for you now that actually have time and space to help you with that.
Yeah, definitely. Love it. And I know something else you talk about is around the governance on tech and that centers, well-being, right? And everything like that that's going on in the workplace as well. So tell us a bit more about this too.
Okay. There's a lot of people, again, tech is bought so much amazing stuff, but it's also creating a lot of overload. And there's a lot of stuff going around at the moment about that digital detox and, people needing to sort of move away from tech, in a way. And it's more about, sorry, my nerves just popped right in then and I actually just forgot your question.
It's all good. So I know you talk a lot about tech governance, and what we're doing there with all the systems that centers around well-being as well, which is important, for people, what we're doing in the workplace as well. So tell us more about this too.
Okay. Sorry, my anxiety has just peaked.
It's all good. We can all cut all this stuff out, Rachel. So
Far
um,
out.
take a few deep breaths. That's it. Nice and easy. I can ask a different question if you like. I can move it around.
Yeah, if you could just to help me get back into the flow. Sorry, my anxiety
Yeah,
just peaked.
no, it's all good. It's all good. I've done this plenty of times. We can easily move stuff. So, um, maybe I'll talk. Yeah, I'll ask a different question. I'll tell you here on something easy. To go from there, and we'll move forward. Um, okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So what I'm thinking about as well, right? Like we've got a lot of people in the workplace. We're implementing tech. We're doing all this sort of stuff, and there's always going to be some level of tension, right? Or a better way of putting this is emotions, right? That come into things, and maybe there's some frustration or things that happen in the workplace. And I think this is where, especially from a tech AI, it can bring things up, but even just generally in the workplace, as a leader or people working for us, the importance of emotional intelligence, right? In what we do there because it can really affect, how our business works, whether it's internally or externally. I'd love to know your thoughts, emotional intelligence, the importance, and maybe some ways of how we can be better at it.
Yeah, it is such an important skill, and it's something that I think is, or what I'm hearing a lot from industry at the moment, is it's actually one of the key skills that they're employing for, because especially with tech, things like critical thinking, emotional intelligence are all things we really need to pivot and adapt and learn and rely on so much more. And as a leader, and one of the things I've always prided myself on, and one of the things that I've learned through the military and through my own leadership journey, is when you actually empower your team, when you actually create a team that feels like they can talk to you and they get to know you, you actually get to understand your team and you can see this person is going to work well with this person. This is my chance to give this person a chance to sort of grow and scale. If I put this person with this person, we're going to have issues on this project. So it allows you to actually pull on the strengths of your team to get the best out of them so that they're actually working well as a team and you're breaking down all those barriers that could create confusion and tension. Um, and create a space where people feel safe. I mean, cultural, as I said, psychological safety is something that's really big at the moment. Technology has led to flexible workplaces. Businesses can now, go international really, really easy and scale with AI. You can scale really, really quickly. But if you're not looking after the people that you have and you're not paying attention to how they're feeling, how they're traveling with the business, and tweaking things that you need to as you go, you're going to end up losing those people. And if you're losing your top talent, you're not going to scale. You're not going to innovate. You're going to spend all your sort of time trying to do things on your own because people aren't staying. Whereas if you create a place that's culturally safe, People feel valued, they feel heard, they feel like they're being part of the journey, they're part of the team, they're part of what makes your organization, your business special. They're going to stay loyal, they're going to continue to work with you, and they're going to continue to sort of help you grow.
Yeah, love it. So, so true. Really important, right? You can't have a business without people, really, right? In that area there, even though it might be lesser people that might be required with AI and tech, you still need people at the helm leading it all and making sure, yeah, that great culture, like you said. One thing I quickly want to touch on is about coaching, mentoring, right? And I know this has been a big thing for me, for with sport growing up, as well as obviously in business. All my coaches, mentors have definitely helped me get to where I am much quicker. I'd love to know from your perspective, on how important coaching mentoring has been for you in your athlete career in business and what it's helped you to achieve too.
Yeah, I have never done anything without a coach or a mentor. Um, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I have got as quickly as what I did if I didn't have coaches, mentors, and people that were willing to be my voice in the room as well when I couldn't be in there. It's amazing what, sometimes you don't just want a mentor, you actually want someone who is going to take it that little bit a step further and actually advocate for you as well. And I've had some people like that in my life, which have led to some amazing opportunities. But you can't, if you don't have a mentor and you don't have a coach, you can't continue to learn and grow because you can't see where you need to be. You can't see that next step on where you need to go. And sometimes you also can't see the areas that you're blind to that that are not necessarily, I don't like calling them weaknesses, but are opportunities to sort of grow and develop so that you can move to that next step and that next position or that, time to scale up your business and those sort of things. If you learn from other people, you're not going to make the same mistakes and you're going to be able to grow and develop faster. So I've always had coaches, whether it be sport, business, even when I was just, starting off in the workplace, I was always getting mentored. I was always getting coached so that I could move into that next position and find out what's out there as well. Because if you're not at that level, sometimes you can't see what else is out there. So, you're very limited and blinded then by what you don't know.
Yeah, definitely, completely agree. Definitely been the game changing factor. Why take 10 years to try and work it on yourself when you can do it in 1 to 3 years, right? There and because time is our most precious resource, and want to definitely get to where we want to be quicker. So love that area on your background, and you shared so much gold with us here today as well, Rachel. And I guess as we're starting to wrap up the show, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, watching and listening today?
Um, Sometimes people believe that failure is your time to quit. It's actually just a data point. It's something for you to learn and grow. Don't stop learning. Don't stop growing. Embrace everything that you've been through and be 100% your authentic self as you're moving forward, and you will get to where you want to go.
Definitely. That's the one. If you never quit, you'll always succeed in the end, right? And you're a testament to that with, your what you've had to overcome, with in the veteran space, in the sports space, burnout space, getting back into the workplace, being an entrepreneur now, all of that. So many hurdles, that you've gone over through that most people would quit, right? And that's a testament to you. And I've had to do similar things, and that's what people don't see. They see us in this level of success that we're at now and going, oh, how did you get there? It must be easy and all these things. And like, no,
Luck.
no, no,
I hear that a lot. It's luck. No, it's definitely a lot of hard work.
definitely. And pushing through those areas, right? It's a bit of a roller coaster ride, but it's all fun and games in the end. That's why I look at it. So well done for doing that. And I think you've got a very inspirational story that a lot of people should be looking at and going, well, if Rachel did all of that, I've got no excuses basically, to do what I want to do, in my life and my business. So, it's awesome, that we connected and, learning about that whole background of yours, right, and what you've done, and I love the way that you're, integrating the AI, the ethical, the other side of the things that people aren't doing. People just think, oh, I just want to grow the business or cut costs or grow, but it's like how are we actually building something that's going to be good for the business long term? in the way that you're doing that. Because if you think too short term, then yeah, the things can fall off, right? In the business. So I think that's a really important angle, that you're focusing on among everything else you're doing with the leaders as well, so that they're forming at their best, sustainably, as well as part of that business, and then what they're creating within it. So I'm sure you continue to make that impact and difference there. And you're definitely amazing. It's been a pleasure, connecting with you and being on this journey as well. And look forward to partnering, doing some fun stuff together as well. So Rachel, yeah, how can people find you and get in contact with you?
The best way to find me is actually on LinkedIn. Just send me a DM and we'll connect and have a chat.
Awesome. We'll definitely check out Rachel there, LinkedIn. It'll be in the show notes there to find her and connect and have a chat. You never know, right? She's got a podcast as well. Maybe you might get lucky and get on there too. She's connecting with some high level people and really changing the game. So it's been a pleasure interviewing you, Rachel, and thanks for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Business Growth Show, where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. And if you want to grow and scale your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. So until next time, remember that our business grows where we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So let's create wealth and freedom together.